We are the Creating a Resilient Community Network, and we want you to know why PACEs matter. Our multi-sector group of over 530 members and 250 organizations here in Central Florida hope to transform our region into one of prevention, hope, healing, and resilience for all. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs for short, are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood from birth to 17 years of age. Once nonprofit agencies learn about adverse childhood experiences, again, ACEs for short, and understand the long-term impacts, they start asking important questions like, how can we prevent ACEs from happening? What can we do to help people who have already experienced ACEs heal? And what can I do about it in my family, in my school, in my workplace, in my home, and in my community? The three types of ACEs include physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, physical and emotional neglect, and of various forms of household stressors, such as a household member with a mental illness, a relative who is incarcerated or struggling with substance abuse, seeing a mother treated violently, and experiencing divorce. The term ACEs originated from a groundbreaking study conducted in 1995 by the Centers for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente. Dr. Vincent Folletti and Dr. Robert Ondas surveyed over 17,000 mostly educated, middle-class, white, insured patients in San Diego County, California, and they found that ACEs are incredibly common. Since the initial ACEs study, a 25-state survey of adults supported that ACEs are quite common and occur in all socioeconomic backgrounds. About 61% of adults surveyed reported they experienced at least one type of ACE, and nearly 1 in 6 reported experiencing 4 or more ACEs. The CDC's ACE pyramid illustrates the mechanisms by which ACEs influence health and well-being throughout a person's lifespan. You can see that ACEs is the third level on the pyramid, but the base of the pyramid begins with generational embodiment and historical trauma. As you can see, each level on the pyramid negatively impacts the health and well-being of an individual and can lead to early death. Additionally, childhood trauma occurs within 3 realms as seen in this graphic. ACEs are represented on the tree. Adverse community experiences are represented in the soil, tainting the roots of the tree. And adverse environment experiences are represented as various natural disasters that influence our overall health. As you can see, all 3 realms are interconnected. The majority of human service nonprofits address one or more of the 3 realms with many of the people they serve. Nonprofit organizations and human services personnel are often the first line of defense for individuals and families in crisis. ACEs are costly. They are linked to 6 of the top 10 leading causes of death in the U.S., such as 1.9 million cases of heart disease. 51% of children with an ACE score of 4 or more had learning and behavior problems in school, compared with only 3% of children with an ACE score of 0. The economic and social costs to families, communities, and society totals hundreds of billions of dollars each year. This highlights why preventing ACEs is crucial. As your score increases, so does the risk of disease, social, and emotional problems. This is called a dose-response relationship. Compared to persons with no ACEs, a person with 4 or more ACEs was found to be 12.2 times as likely to have attempted suicide, and nearly 2 times as likely to have had heart disease and cancer. Repeat and prolonged exposure to stressors can cause a state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which can show up in their behaviors, learning, and health conditions. The fight response is your body's way of facing any perceived threat aggressively. Flight means when your body urges you to run from danger. Freeze is your body's inability to move or act against a threat. And fawn is your body's stress response to try to please someone in order to avoid conflict. So take, for example, if your nonprofit works with families and households that regularly experience hunger, then it is important for you to know that they may come to your organization in this fight, flight, or freeze state. Is your staff aware of this and prepared to respond? Stress is a normal part of life, but when children experience trauma without a safe, stable, nurturing relationship and environment or buffering, ACEs can lead to toxic stress. The overactivated stress response system leads to elevated stress hormones, which damages the developing brain and body systems. And in this graphic, you see on the right an abnormal brain scan in a child who experienced extreme deprivation in infancy in comparison to a child with a healthy brain. And the science of epigenetics, the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work, shows at the level of DNA toxic stress also changes the way genes are read and transcribed. These alterations can be passed down through generations. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention identifies 6 guiding principles for a trauma-informed approach: safety, trustworthiness, and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and cultural, historical, and gender issues. In other words, organizations should center acknowledgement, support, and trust so that all employees know they will be heard, get the help they need, and be treated fairly. Nonprofit organizations and human services personnel are often the first line of defense for individuals and families in crisis. As such, it is important for these individuals to practice self-care to serve as a buffer against burnout and secondary trauma. When agencies prioritize self-care and create organizational conditions where staff experience physical and emotional safety, are given greater degrees of autonomy, and participate in decision-making processes, they will not only experience increased professional quality of life, but may also be more efficient in their roles as helpers. The good news is that we can overcome ACEs, and the brain and body can heal. ACEs are a part of a person's story, but not necessarily their destiny. And if we go back to the original question of what can you do about ACEs, there are a number of interventions that can be taken to mitigate the worst effects of trauma and help people move forward to have healthy and productive lives. First, humans are extremely resilient. Resilience is defined as the ability to roll with the punches. When stress, adversity, or trauma strike, it's natural to experience anger, grief, and pain, but with resiliency, you're able to keep functioning, both physically and psychologically. We cannot take away someone's trauma, but there's much we can do to build resilience. As mentioned earlier, ACEs influence health and well-being throughout a person's lifespan, but positive experiences and relationships can cultivate resilience throughout one's life. Organizations play an important role in addressing trauma and supporting employees. A trauma-informed organization is one that operates with an understanding of trauma and its negative effects on the organization's employees and the communities it serves, and works to mitigate those effects. These organizations promote psychological safety, the sense that within a team or organization, it is acceptable for someone to admit they made a mistake, or don't know the answer, or are struggling. When positive experiences outweigh negative experiences, a child's scale tips towards positive outcomes. Moving from ACEs to hope or healthy outcomes from positive experiences represents a shift in how we see and talk about the positive experiences that supports children's growth and development into healthy, resilient adults. Positive childhood experiences PACEs, PCEs, are critical for children to build resilience and to mitigate the effects of toxic stress. Examples of positive childhood experiences may include feeling a sense of belonging in school, feeling supported by friends, or having at least two non-parent adults who genuinely care. Similar to ACEs, positive childhood experiences have a dose-response relationship. And that means the more PCEs a person has, the better health outcomes they may experience. By using a protective factors approach, we can also help our parents and our community find resources and support that emphasizes their strengths while also identifying areas where assistance is needed. These 5 factors are conditions or attributes in individuals, families, and communities that can help prevent, buffer, and heal trauma in various ways and include parental resilience, social and emotional competence, social support, concrete support, and understanding child development. Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, pediatrician and former Surgeon General of the state of California, suggests you can heal toxic stress by regulating a dysfunctional stress response system. This method includes 7 healing practices that can be shared with constituents. They include sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, mental health care, healthy relationships, and nature. In Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris's book, The Deepest Well highlights her work in the field of ACEs. To conclude, we should make a personal perspective shift from what is wrong with you to what happened to you, or to what is right with you. And those words are inspired by Dr. Sean Ginwright's healing-centered engagement approach. Let's change the lens through which we view behavior and make the shift to better understand ACEs, their long-lasting effects for the people we serve, and the paths toward healing. Thank you again for listening.